Beneath Kunwu mountain, where ancient seals trembled and forgotten gods lay chained in silence, destiny was stirring once more, and those who stepped forward would either seize immortality or be buried beneath the weight of 1,000 years of vengeance. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Deep beneath the earth of Nanjiang, several hundred cultivators had gathered before the fractured mouth of the seal to Kunwu Mountain. The explosion of the illusion formation had left the 10-meter aperture trembling, its edges wavering like a wound that refused to close. Silver radiance poured ceaselessly from within, flowing in restless tides, as though moonlit waves were washing over the cavern and distorting all they touched. Many lone wanderers and minor sect cultivators lingered at a cautious distance, watching with guarded eyes. Yet the true focus lay at the heart of the cavern, where several formidable factions stood locked in a silent standoff near the unstable opening. Among them was a party of women youthful and exquisitely beautiful. Their emerald robes shimmered softly, their ornaments bearing the unmistakable style of Nanjiang's natives. Of their 2 elders, one was an ordinary-looking woman at mid-nascent soul stage. The other, younger and strikingly lovely, possessed early nascent soul cultivation. Despite the difference in appearance, the spiritual pressure radiating from them was equally formidable. They faced a group of men who appeared to be in their 30s. Strangely, some were clad in black robes, while others wore white as though divided between night and day. At their forefront stood 5 nascent soul cultivators. Gei Tianhao and the Endless Sky Saintess Lin Yinping were among them. Yet the most eye-catching figure was the elegant youth standing beside the Saintess. His bearing was refined, his expression calm, and from the depth of his spiritual qi fluctuations, it was clear he was a late nascent soul cultivator. He was none other than Grand Immortal Shu of the Endless Sky Plains. The final group was the smallest 3 azure-robed cultivators, led by a white-haired Taoist whose presence felt detached from the mortal world. His name was Master Sable, a late nascent soul cultivator whose reputation resounded throughout Great Jin. Master Sable fixed his gaze on the green-robed mid-nascent soul woman and spoke sternly, though a trace of warmth lingered in his tone. Lady Mu, there is no need for your esteemed sect to involve itself in this matter. It is not that I look down upon you. Rather, I fear that should misfortune strike during this perilous venture, your immortal form sect would suffer grievous losses. In light of our past friendship, I urge you to reconsider. His words carried unmistakable affection. Lady Mu replied coolly, her expression unchanged. Master Sable, even if the High Zenith sect stands foremost among the righteous, Dao, you cannot act so overbearingly. This seal lies within the territory of my sect's authority. On what grounds would you bar my entry? As for danger, my immortal form sect does not shrink from it. The women belong to the immortal form sect, the greatest sect nearest the seal. Their renown surpassed even that of the sacred poison sects. Though the majority of their disciples were women, it was not beauty that inspired fear, but their terrifying, inescapable curses. Legends claimed they could slay an enemy from thousands of kilometers away. Time and again, word spread of those who had offended the sect only to perish mysteriously, no matter how far they fled. The cultivation world trembled at their name, and few dared provoke them lightly. Lady Mu herself was a figure of grim reputation. It was said she had slain 3 cultivators of equal rank within a single day each in a different location. Between her and Master Sable lay old grievances tangled and unresolved. Even so, though Master Sable was counted among the mightiest figures of Great Jin, he could only maintain utmost courtesy before her. At this juncture, Gei Tianhao interjected. Fellow Taoist Sable, I shall not speak for others, but our yin-sifting sect will be entering. He stood beside the Endless Sky cultivators, accompanied by 2 elders of his own sect. Upon learning of the seal, he had rushed over without delay. Now realizing that his party's strength rivaled that of the High Zenith sect, he had no intention of retreating meekly. Master Sable did not flare in anger. Instead, he turned his gaze toward the seething silver light at the seal's mouth. If fellow Taoist Gay insists on entering, I will not stop you. However, I have obtained secret intelligence that this seal was opened by human hands. As for what lies within, I cannot imagine it to be anything auspicious. Moreover, even without my interference, the opening itself has become unstable. Silence fell over Lady Mu and Gei Tianhao alike. The violent energy fluctuations around the aperture made entry exceedingly dangerous. Lady Mu brushed aside a strand of hair from her forehead, her voice slow and measured. Our immortal form sect recently acquired the Sun-Moon shuttle. It is one of the rare treasures capable of both offense and defense. My junior martial sister and I are willing to join forces and attempt entry. Master Sable's eyes widened slightly. You have obtained the Sun-Moon shuttle, one of the 3 great shuttle treasures. It was acquired by chance. Lady Mu answered indifferently. I had intended for it to become a legacy treasure of our sect. Master Sable nodded. In that case, I shall not obstruct you further. Act as you see fit. As for me, I will wait 2 more days before entering. 2 days. Did you not say you would not enter? Ge Tianhao asked, suspicion flickering in his gaze. Master Sable stroked his beard calmly. I said no such thing. In 2 days, Brother Seven Wonders of the Heavenly Devil sect will arrive. With his spirit tortoise carriage passing through the seal will pose no difficulty. Taoist Seven Wonders is coming personally. Gei Tianhao's expression darkened. Correct. A secret report suggests this matter concerns both the righteous and devilish Tao. Fellow Taoist Seven Wonders and I have divided our investigations in Nanjiang. I have uncovered certain clues and requested his assistance. If the report proves true, this affair may be too dangerous for me alone. At the mention of 7 wonders, Gei Tianhao's face grew unsightly. After a moment of silence, he transmitted his voice to the Endless Sky Saintess and Grand Immortal Shu. Grand Immortal Shu's expression did not change. The Saintess, however, frowned faintly, tension clouding her delicate features. After further whispered exchanges, Immortal Shu finally inclined his head. The Saintess hesitated, then chose silence. Ge Tianhao's expression eased. From your words, fellow Taoist Sable, this seal hides grave danger. However, my sect's Grand Elder has already entered. I cannot stand idle. Though I possess no treasure equal to the Sun-Moon shuttle or Spirit Tortoise carriage, I must still attempt it. Master Sable glanced briefly at Immortal Shu and chuckled softly. You are confident indeed. I am not so petty as to hinder you. If you have the means, then please. It was clear the old Taoist knew precisely who stood within Gei Tianhao's ranks. In that case, I shall not decline. Ge Tianhao turned respectfully. Fellow Taoist, Shu, I must trouble you. Since Brother Ji requests it, I shall give it a try. Immortal Shu slapped the spirit beast pouch at his waist. A streak of light burst forth, revealing a rainbow peacock 1 meter tall. Rings of iridescent radiance rippled across its feathers, dazzling and resplendent. A keen spirit peacock. Master Sable narrowed his eyes. Indeed, its innate rainbow light can isolate worldly spiritual chi. We shall rely on it to pass through. Excuse us, we will enter first. The peacock gave a crystalline cry and plunged into the churning silver light. The cultivators activated their protective treasures in unison and followed without hesitation. In the blink of an eye, they vanished within the seal, leaving behind only lower-ranked cultivators and disciples. After witnessing their safe entry, the remainder of their faction withdrew, swiftly obeying prior instructions. Soon, only Master Sable's party and the Immortal Form sect remained. Lady Mu contemplated briefly before issuing several commands. Her disciples dispersed at once. When they had departed, she turned to her junior martial sister. Release the Sun-Moon shuttle. Understood. The younger woman slapped her storage pouch, sending a dazzling silver shuttle spinning into the air. Simultaneously, Lady Mu flicked her sleeve, releasing a streak of golden light. Silver and gold intertwined in mid-air, spiraling around one another before fusing into a magnificent shuttle 3 meters tall, its aura vast and awe-inspiring. Go. With a sharp cry, the two women transformed into streaks of light and vanished into the shuttle. It flared brilliantly, spun once through the air, then shot into the seal like a falling star. Master Sable watched them enter, his expression unreadable. "Despite my warnings, you persist. Do not blame me if misfortune befalls you." He waved a hand to the two core formation cultivators behind him, and the three sat cross-legged to rest. With a late nascent soul cultivator guarding the entrance, those watching from afar could only sigh in frustration. At the summit of Kunwu Mountain, beneath a sky steeped in gloom, an enormous object floated motionless in the air. Countless restriction talismans were plastered across its surface, blazing with resplendent light. Dense coils of chains bound it tightly, their black metal gleaming ominously. Faint traces of blood seeped along their links, as though the chains themselves had once tasted slaughter and remembered. Beyond the talismans and the coiling chains, more than 1,000 palm-sized mirrors floated in silent orbit around the gargantuan object. Each mirror shimmered with a dim yellow glow, casting out slender beams of light that interwove in the air, forming a vast and intricate spell formation that enveloped the mountain-shaped mass at its center. Layer upon layer of cascading restrictions filled the surrounding space, overlapping like translucent veils. They shimmered faintly, saturating the air with a pale radiance that made the very heavens seem submerged beneath invisible tides of power. The object itself resembled a small mountain, massive and unmoving. It showed no discernible change, no stirring of will or breath, if not for the faint, almost imperceptible rise and fall of its surface, like the distant pulse of something buried deep within. One might have mistaken it for lifeless stone. Yet just beside it, there existed an entirely different world. Verdant and flourishing, it was thick with every manner of spiritual plant and exotic flora. The spiritual chi there was so dense it was almost suffocating, as though the air itself had condensed into liquid vitality. Vines coiled like serpents, ancient trees towered skyward, and blossoms radiated quiet, otherworldly beauty. At the very heart of this realm stood a magnificent palace spanning a full kilometer in breadth. From afar it appeared desolate, abandoned to the ages, but from above its true nature revealed itself. The palace lay at the core of an immense spell formation. 81 altars, each 30 meters tall, were erected in precise positions corresponding to the formation's geometry, encircling the palace like solemn guardians of heaven's decree. Upon every altar stood a 10-meter-tall statue carved from flawless white jade. These stone figures were clad in resplendent golden armor, their hands clasping massive golden blades pointed unwaveringly toward the palace. Their expressions were stern, solemn, so exquisitely sculpted that they seemed almost alive, as though they might step down from their pedestals at any moment. And yet, the entire domain was utterly silent. No wind stirred, no insect cried, no leaf trembled. It was as though time itself had recoiled from this place, leaving the scene untouched for millennia. Elsewhere, the 7-star Myrtle Formation had been fully activated. Thunderous explosions reverberated across the mist-shrouded expanse as the formation teetered on the brink of collapse. 7 towering pillars of violet light pierced upward from the churning sea of fog, reaching for the heavens like spears forged from pure radiance. Low rolls of thunder echoed intermittently. Dense arcs of lightning leapt from the pillars, lashing out at the surrounding restrictions with savage force. The mist had thickened to such an extent that sight was utterly obscured. From within its depths came eerie, soul-piercing wails, ghostly cries that seemed to claw at the mind. Hanley moved calmly through this chaos, his figure wrapped in coils of twisting lightning. Each step he took crackled with restrained power as he advanced toward a nearby pillar. From the mist, massive pythons condensed without warning, their bodies formed from congealed spiritual fog. They lunged at him relentlessly, but the lightning that wreathed him scattered them with contemptuous ease, dispersing them into drifting vapors. Yet there was no trace of satisfaction on Han Li's face. The assaults continued without end. Silver-white lightning occasionally arced overhead, threatening to descend. Han Li paid it no mind. Whenever a bolt was about to strike, he merely flicked his sleeve, redirecting the thunder aside as though brushing away falling rain. Suddenly, two faint buzzing sounds emerged from behind him so subtle they were nearly imperceptible. Han Li frowned. With a casual flick of his fingers, two arcs of golden lightning shot backward. The air filled with the sharp scent of something scorched. He turned. Two fist-sized wasps lay smoldering upon the ground, their bodies charred black. Most striking were the 3-inch stingers protruding from their tails, gleaming like deadly spears. He had already slain over 40 of these creatures. At first he had relied upon his nimble flying swords, but now he had resorted to divine devilbane lightning. It was not that he possessed lightning to waste, but these monstrous wasps were capable of damaging his swords. Though he did not know the potency of their venom, their green blood was fiercely corrosive, eroding the spiritual essence of his blades upon contact. When his swords proved ineffective, he attempted low-grade fireballs and icicle techniques, yet to no avail. Fortunately, the insects possessed little resistance to lightning and could be exterminated without significant expenditure. Crimson bats also occasionally darted from the mist. They resembled ordinary bats at a glance, but swordlight alone barely harmed them. Only the true edge of his blades could cleave through their flesh, and even then, there was a brief but undeniable resistance that left Han Li inwardly astonished. His bamboo clouds-warm swords, tempered with auric essence, were peerlessly sharp. That these creatures could momentarily withstand them spoke volumes of their resilience. These wasps and bats were rare spirit beasts seldom seen in the world, notoriously difficult to rear. Clearly someone had invested tremendous effort into nurturing them. Yet without direct control, they displayed less than half their true might. It seemed those who had entered ahead were paying a heavy price merely to delay pursuers. As these thoughts crossed his mind, Han Li arrived within 30 meters of a pillar of violet light. Its destruction lay within easy reach. But suddenly, a towering stalk of purple bamboo manifested at the edge of the formation. In an instant, countless shoots erupted from the ground, growing at a terrifying speed. They surrounded him, weaving together into a dense forest that swallowed him whole. The nearby pillar of light vanished from sight. Han Li merely smiled faintly. Illusionary restrictions. So long as it was not an illusion of the highest order, like the one he had encountered before, it could not impede him. Blue light flickered within his eyes. The purple bamboo dissolved like mist under the morning sun, revealing the pillar exactly where it had stood. With a sweep of his sleeve, 8 flying swords shot forth. They circled once in the air, releasing a resonant chime before converging into a brilliant streak. A flash of sword light cleaved cleanly through the base of the pillar. A thunderous explosion erupted. The pillar collapsed into nothingness. Simultaneously, the surrounding bamboo forest vanished entirely, exposing over 400 meters of pristine white jade brick beneath his feet. Han Li glanced around, brow lifting slightly. In the distance, through the thinning purple mist, only 3 pillars remained. Clearly, 3 others had acted more swiftly than he. After a brief moment of contemplation, he retrieved a spirit stone and sat cross-legged, showing no interest in competing for the remaining pillars. As he replenished his magic power, his thoughts turned to what he would do upon encountering the Elder Devil. Powerful cultivators had gathered here in great number, and countless monstrous beings lurked in the shadows. Even with the grand puppet and the tri-flame fan at his disposal, a single moment of carelessness could cost him his life. After pondering for a while, Han Li tapped his storage pouch and withdrew a rectangular brick that glowed with faint blue light. It was the miniature form of the crystalline slab he had extracted from within the stone stele. The object was concealed with extraordinary skill. He had examined the stele repeatedly and discovered nothing. Had it not been for the armored earth dragon's innate treasure-seeking ability, he would have missed it entirely. The slab's composition was peculiar, refined from a single unknown stone. Without spiritual power, it was unbearably heavy. With spiritual energy infused, however, it became light as a feather. What captivated him most were the ancient characters inscribed upon its surface. Despite the countless records he had studied, these glyphs were utterly unfamiliar. Yet from their structure and strokes, he could discern that they predated what was commonly known as ancient times. This was something even older, a relic from an era bordering on prehistory. After studying it for a long moment, he sighed softly and stored it away. Just then, two distant explosions resounded. Two more pillars had fallen. As for the final one, it dimmed and dissipated on its own without intervention. The purple mist gradually dispersed, revealing the figures of the others. Old Devil Qian's furious roar shattered the lingering silence. Where are those sacred poison sect elders? They actually dared slip past us. Han Li swept his gaze across the area and confirmed they were gone. The large man among the vagrants bellowed angrily. Not only them. That scoundrel Scatterwind vanished as well. I knew he was planning to cheat us when he urged us inside. Bai Yaoyi sighed faintly and gestured ahead. No wonder they managed to shake us off. Look forward. The others turned. Before them lay over a dozen staircases, each ascending in a different direction, disappearing into the depths of the complex. Old Man Fu frowned. It seems they believed they could manage alone and slipped away intending to monopolize whatever lies ahead. Old Devil Qian quickly suppressed his anger and let out a cold snort. So that's how it is. Then I shall act alone as well. Whoever dares obstruct me dies. The five fiendish forms blurred and swirled around the jade tablets, marking the stairways. After a brief glance, they fused as one and shot toward the staircase leading to Kunwu Hall, vanishing without hesitation. When they saw Old Devil Qian depart without hesitation, the four vagrant cultivators' expressions shifted dramatically. Shock flickered across their faces, and they began whispering among themselves in low, uneasy tones. At the same time, Han Li heard Old Man Fu's voice transmission sound in his ear. It seems our alliance has come to an end. What does Brother Han intend to do? Han Li cast the old man a calm glance and pondered briefly before replying through voice transmission. There are many paths ahead. I will travel alone. As long as you avoid the locations with particularly imposing names, you should not encounter the others. Old Man Fu fell silent for a moment before offering a wry smile. I understand. However, I would not dare venture alone. I will accompany fellow Taoist Bai. If we were ambushed by the silver-winged night fiend or the lion hawk, I would have no confidence in surviving. There was no resentment in his tone. With so many powerful figures searching for treasure, the spoils would already be scarce. If they chose the same route, conflict would be inevitable. Moreover, Han Li's abilities far surpassed theirs. It was indeed wiser for him to act independently. As they were still discussing their plans, the large man among the vagrant cultivators suddenly called out, "Fellow Taoists, we'll be going first." The four vagrants split into two groups, and each ascended a different stairway, their figures quickly swallowed by the lingering mist. Soon after, Old Man Fu and Bai Yaoyi concluded their discussion and bid Han Li farewell. The two selected a stone stairway and sped upward using body lightning techniques, vanishing within moments. Han Li was left alone. He stood quietly in the vast empty plaza, the silence settling like a heavy veil. After sweeping his gaze across the surroundings, a faint smirk tugged at his lips as he turned toward the stone tablets marking each stairway. Aside from destinations with formidable names, such as Devil Suppressing Pagoda and Kunwu Hall, the other routes were likely less contested. Standing before the tablets, he murmured softly, Bright Mind Pavilion, Fortune Cloud Hall, Jade Hook Pond, and Spirit Metal Hall. These names all seem related to tool refinement. Although Kunwu Hall and Spirit Treasure Pavilion were the most likely to contain precious artifacts, he had no desire to stake his life against multiple great powers for uncertain gain. He had already obtained the nascent cultivating pill. Prudence was the wiser course. With that thought, he concluded that Spirit Metal Hall would likely be overlooked. His figure blurred, ascending the rearmost stone staircase like a drifting shadow. Not long after he disappeared from view, a glow of yellow light flickered at the center of the plaza. From it emerged the silver-winged night fiend, the horned woman, and the lion hawk. The night fiend turned his gaze toward the stairways and said slowly, "Earth movement techniques can only be used up to this point. If we proceed further underground, the mountain's restrictions will be triggered." Hands resting at her waist, the horned woman observed, "The residual spiritual chi fluctuations here are strong. It seems those cultivators have just destroyed a spell formation." The lion hawk let out 2 low roars, then spread its wings and soared into the air, circling above the stone tablets. After a brief pause, the night fiend smiled faintly. "So these are the directions they've taken. Ha! Brother Lion Hawk's sense of smell is truly keen. Good. They have split apart," the horned woman said with a frown. "It will be easier to seize their restriction medallions this way. However, if those heading to Kunwu Hall lack sufficient strength, we won't be able to pass through ourselves." The night fiend snorted lightly. "No matter. If those humans prove incompetent, we shall secretly lend assistance. As long as we avoid activating the restrictions aimed specifically at us, the others can be broken." "In that case," the horned woman said eagerly, "let's determine which cultivators took that stairway. Brother Night Fiend, your concealment techniques are the strongest among us. Can you hide us?" "Of course." With a single flap of his silver wings, mist surged outward, enveloping the 3 beasts. In a flash of light, they vanished without a trace. At nearly the same moment, a rainbow peacock emerged from the white light screen beside the stone pavilion halfway up Kunwu Mountain. Meanwhile, Han Li ascended the stairway with effortless agility, each bound carrying him 10 steps forward. After turning several corners, the white jade plaza disappeared from sight. Several towering trees lined the stone steps. Their trunks were thick and ancient, their bark etched with the passage of countless years. Han Li cast them an appraising glance. He had never seen such trees before. Having grown upon Kunwu Mountain for untold ages, even ordinary spiritual trees would have matured into exceptional refinement materials. Yet he did not slow his pace for such temptations. After proceeding a short distance, his eyes suddenly brightened. A sprawling complex appeared in the distance. Joy flickered across his features, and he quickened his speed. In mere breaths, he reached the summit and came to an abrupt halt. A curtain of white mist barred his path. Beyond it stood a 20-meter-tall grey stone wall, concealing most of what lay within. Written across it in argent brilliance were 3 ancient characters: Spirit Metal Hall. Though much of the interior was hidden, a large structure could be seen rising above the wall. Han Li glanced to either side and realized the white mist was not simply obstruction. It was a barrier, fully enveloping the hall. It seemed the ancient cultivators had activated all of Kunwu Mountain's restrictions before sealing it. Perhaps they had intended to safeguard it, hoping one day to return. With a flick of his sleeve, Han Li released a streak of golden swordlight toward the gate. A strange buzzing sounded as the blade sank half a foot into the barrier before halting. The wound glowed brilliantly and began to mend itself. He frowned and recalled the sword. The damage vanished in moments. Judging the barrier to be nearly 3 meters thick, he pondered whether the combined force of his swords could even breach it. If he failed to destroy it in a single strike, it would simply regenerate. Given sufficient time, he could release his gold-devouring beetles to consume its spiritual power. It would take days, but it would eventually fall. That was unacceptable. His expression hardened as he made his decision. Slapping his storage pouch, he produced a fist-sized orb of light. It circled him once before revealing a feather fan, glowing with gold, silver, and crimson hues. At his beckoning, the fan emitted a resonant phoenix cry before settling into his hand. He unfolded it, and it expanded to a full meter in length, blazing with tri-colored brilliance. Gripping the fan, Han Li's gaze turned icy. He swung it forward. This time he carefully restrained its power, preventing the manifestation of a flame-born phoenix. Instead, a concentrated stream of tri-colored fire surged forth. The barrier melted like ice before scorching flame. In the blink of an eye, a large opening appeared. Han Li immediately stored the fan and darted inside. The towering stone wall rose before him, and when he turned back, the barrier had already begun mending itself, sealing the breach. A bitter smile crossed his lips. He would need to expend considerable effort again when leaving. Examining the state of his magic power, he found that even while suppressing the fan to less than half its potential, it had still consumed nearly a third of his reserves. Shaking his head, he moved along the stone wall. The buildings at the front of the complex were uniform in construction, 30 meters tall, 2 stories each. He entered the nearest one. It was empty, save for sparse furnishings. A resting quarters. If ancient cultivators had once resided here, their belongings had been taken when they evacuated. Though he had anticipated as much, a faint sigh escaped him. He inspected several more buildings, each equally barren. Even the structures resembling warehouses were completely devoid of contents. Racks, tables, chests all stood empty. There was no trace of tool refinement materials or remnants. Disappointment settled upon him like dust. Yet, as he exited the final warehouse, a stone hall came into view. It spanned roughly 300 meters and was tinted a deep crimson as though forged from molten iron. Above its gate hung 3 characters: Spirit Change Hall. Though standing outside, Han Li could already sense a familiar aura emanating from within. His heart stirred. With his hands clasped behind his back, he stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, a roar like rolling thunder filled his ears. His gaze swept across the hall.